We're going to take a break now from this, and we can come back to it. What I want to do is take a moment and introduce you to my granddaughter, who is the owner of Health and Herbs. And she's here with me in the Google Hangouts, and I see her there now. She has joined us. So I'm going to take a break here. And her name is Brittany, and she's a sweetheart. And I love her very much. She is my granddaughter who blessed me with five great granddaughters, and they're all charming. They charm their great granddaddy all the time because I visit with them often. But anyway, Brittany, you're here. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I am blessed, and it's good to see you. Can you tell me what's going on over there at the Health and Herbs? What's going on over there where you manufacture all these products and so forth? Folks, this is Brittany, Brittany Haywood. She is my granddaughter. She's the manufacturer and the owner of Health and Herbs. What's going on there, please?
Well, right now we're having a special for any allergy herbs. So anything, we have a protocol for allergies, and anything that has to do with allergies is 20% off this month. We've had a lot of people come to us with suffering from allergies and have had very good results with the herbal formulations that you put together that we sell. So that, and then right now we're getting a lot of calls about frankincense oil. A lot of people are looking for the food grade, but we do have the frankincense tincture. A lot of people have been saying that it's really good for helping with brain tumors, cancer, and also is great inflammation and blood cleanser as well. So have that on sale for 15% off this month. And other than that, just our regular 20% off that we give, the Healthy 31, that is on, for the 20% off for anybody that listens to this Google Hangouts or comes from you.
You have the best products and the lowest prices, and then you're always running these sales. And I know that you help a lot of people there, that they call you up, and you spend a lot of time making sure that people are getting results, and I respect that.
Oh, thank you. Well, I learned from the best. So.
Well, okay. Well, I know you've got a lot of work to do. Is there anything else you want to share with us?
Just go check out our website. We're continuously changing the website. We have monthly specials on there. We have weekly specials. We have featured items. And then everything, we're trying to slowly make sure everything that we carry is up there. So that's a really good spot. If you don't see it on the website, give us a call. One of us are happy to help you and look it up and look for some pricing, and then give you any discounts that we have at the time. So you just go to betterhealthherbs.com or call us at 541-791-8400.
Great. Okay. While you were speaking, I put all of that in screen capture, and I had that website when it was scrolling across with all that and the 30% sale and so forth. So we shared all that with everybody. And again, thank you for joining us and telling us about the specials. And it's really an interesting thing because the Lord works in mysterious ways, and I know you know that. But the question today was all about allergies and respiratory problems and COPD, and that's what we've been talking about. And that was a spontaneous question that somebody asked us, and so it's interesting that you have all that on sale.
Yeah, we've had a ton of calls, a ton of consultations. A lot of people are suffering from allergies really bad this year. And I think especially because of our crazy weather that we've been having. So we've had a lot of good results with it. And it doesn't back up your body. It's actually doing the opposite. It's actually helping other organs in your body while it's helping you get rid of these allergies. So just a really good, natural remedies that are proven to work. And, we're happy to help people and get them some relief. No fun not being able to breathe and dealing with allergies. So.
Wonderful, wonderful. God continue to bless you in your ministry there of helping people and manufacturing these natural remedies. I love you and thank you.
Love you too, Grandpa. Bye.
Bye. All right. So that's my great granddaughter, and I love her so much. Okay. And she's gone. Let's get back to that report there because that's actually let's see if we can wrap that report up and get over to Sister Kashakia, who I'm sure is in. She said she was ready a while ago, but we got into this report and that's what happened. So let me go back down here and let's pull that report back over here on the screen and wrap it up and get over to Sister Kashakia and find out what's going on. So what we found out here today is that one of the main things also is an inexpensive liquid called Everyday Liquid Sunshine Vitamin D3 that in a separate study, researchers from Belgium revealed data showing that this vitamin D deficiency is common among patients with COPD. So it's very important that you understand that there's a lot of research behind it. One of the great things is an inexpensive and I would start out with maybe even 20, 30 drops in my mouth for about 7 to 10 days. Then after that, I'd drop back to about 5 drops of the liquid sunshine, tasteless, little drops. Each drop, 1,000 milligrams, 1,000 IUs of vitamin D3. It's called number 2227. Everybody should be taking liquid sunshine vitamin D3 drops. It's also been shown in studies it's been shown to reverse or stop cancer by 77%. So that's another interesting study. And make sure you're taking lots of B complex, lots of vitamin A, grapeseed extract, two times a day, odorless garlic, shark cartilage, digestive enzymes, flaxseed oil capsules, all of these kinds of things. Bee pollen tincture to inoculate you against allergies. And if you've never taken bee pollen tincture, you start with 1 drop in a glass of water and you take a sip, and it homeopathically starts inoculating you against your allergies. And when you get that bee pollen tincture or bee pollen up into the teaspoons and tablespoons full, you really have a powerful nutrition, powerful booster to your immune system, to your energy. Bee pollen is a powerhouse of energy. So don't ever forget bee pollen because it's a powerhouse. And cayenne pepper. Make sure that in your kitchen you have cayenne pepper and use it as often as possible and as much as you can use. And within reason. And garlic. In my kitchen, I have cayenne, I have garlic, I have a ginger root, and I use them liberally, and you should too. And to put in soups, get some alfalfa leaf cut. That's the super herb of nutrition. Now, the super herb of minerals is seaweed. So be sure and get a little bit of kelp, seaweed, from the folks at betterhealthherbs.com. Again, that telephone number is 541-791-8400. Their website is betterhealthherbs.com to get any of these products that we're talking about on this broadcast. It goes into talking about wild oregano oil to get rid of pneumonia. Just a few drops in a glass of water. And it explains here antibiotics treatment. It describes the herbs in the asthma formula, the bloodroot, the St. John's wort, the mullein, the saw palmetto, the wild cherry bark, golden seal. Describes them in this with this screen capture. this report that's on herbalhealthreview.com under common conditions, under asthma. Now, all of this is all listed here. All this information is there. Please check it out. And I'm going to go close this report and go over to Sister Kashakia and see if she is there. Sister Kashakia, are you there?
Dr. Truman, can you hear me?
I can hear you 10 by 10.
Okay, good. Yes, I am here, Doctor. I'm here. I've just been taking notes, and I didn't get a chance to tell Brittany shalom, shalom. Her. It was good to hear from her.
Yes, wasn't that something?
It was good to hear from Brittany.
Yeah, and she came into Google Hangouts, so now we got her in an audio video. So you'll get to see what she looks like.
Yes, that makes it much easier. Praise the Most High.
That's always fun. So, my dear lady,
we're gonna be getting together soon, very, very soon.
Yes, I wanna come to. Yes,
That's
you know
is though, right? We've been talking all this time and have a show together, and we've never seen one another. So now we know what Yeshaya, when he said, "Blessed are those that have seen, and even more blessed are those that have not seen, but yet they believe." And we've never seen one another, and we believe.
Yes.
Oh man.
Amen on that one. You know what? I should come to Texas, and we should have a conference there. People can come and
we need to. We definitely need to. I know you should be getting ready to go to London. I've been intending to do Elder Godzer. By the time I get something going, the Most High has opened up some other doors.
I'm losing you. I've lost your audio.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you now.
Okay, yes. I was saying I need to email Elder Gaja because since the last email I sent out, which was months and months and months ago, and when he responded back, I have not been able to touch base back with him because I've been working on some other projects. And so I need to get with him so we can get something all set up and just put something under one big umbrella for the body, to come together and do some type of conference. So that would be wonderful.
Yes. And with Elder Gaja, he's so busy baptizing people there. He's Jamaica. He's all over the place. He's in the UK and he's in London. He's in Manchester, and he's so busy. I haven't heard back from him. About 2 weeks ago he said he was going to contact me, and then he hasn't contacted me back. So I don't have a date yet. I'm supposed to be in Manchester and London at the end of July, but he hasn't contacted me about the plane ticket, the actual dates and times and so forth. So bless his heart, probably a last minute deal. I'll hear from him.
Well, we pray that the Most High's timing is good timing, and that your trip is not like the trip last time where you had to get off the airplane, get back on another one, all that stuff you and Crystal went through. So we definitely pray a more successful trip this time going forward.
Oh yeah, the plane trip's supposed to be like about 13 hours or something like that. But I spent much more time sleeping in airports and on the tarmac than the actual trip.
I remember.
Yeah, it was a nightmare.
We're going to pray against that this time, that you can just get your flight straight on in without sleeping anywhere else other than the plane.
Wow.
So hopefully he will get back with you really, really soon, and I need to get caught up with him as well. When you come into this work, what did Yeshaya say? That the harvest is plentiful, but the
laborers are few.
So, once you come in and start laboring, look here. I got people saying, "Man, I haven't heard from you in a while, man. I've been busy." Once you get the Spirit and He gives you a gift, you're gone. Building up the kingdom. So catch up with you now or in the wilderness. But either way, I'm with you and I love you. It's one of those things. Gotta go.
Yes.
All praise to the Most High.
All praises to the Most High.
I'm glad to be here again in the land of the living. I'm always excited to be here for another episode of today's natural, remedies, hearing testimonies from people coming off medications and using the tea tricks and the herbs and just whatever they've been using to get themselves back to the basics, as I call it, where we can live off the earth and have food plants and whole foods and whole grains and things like that. So I come on every week. My name is Sister Kashakia for anybody that might be new, and I am with the Gathering of Christ Church, GOCC, and I'm based out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area here in Texas, and I have a ministry called Conquerors for Christ. And so I use this ministry as a platform to deal with dietary laws and things of that nature to win souls over to the Most High. Sometimes you can't kind of go to a person one way, but the Most High said, I'm going to give you another way to go, but you guys are all on the same road. So this is what I do to reach the lost. And so I come on here every week talking about what's called AGEs for short, or advanced glycation end products. And so today I'm going to kind of go into talking about some grains and what's going on with bread. I notice a lot of people are eating bread. You typically can't pick up something without putting it in your mouth. And bread is simply just another starch. And once it breaks down, there's more sugar. And so people's got extra things hanging over that shouldn't be there and all this kind of stuff going on. So how does this all link into AGEs? And it links in big time. So I am a cancer survivor. I was also diagnosed with cancer.
Ooh, no. Whoops. I did not mean to do that.
I said to do, trying to win that prize of the crown and his glory upon his return. So this is what I do, and my gift for the body is I use this AG awareness as a platform to minister to people because it's a lot going on with it. As I said all the time, if you just Google in AGEs, they're all over the place. They're everywhere. There's nowhere you can't look around and there's not AGE acceleration going on. So a lot of the people that I come in contact with, one of the things I always do is just kind of pique their interest as we are building a rapport, and I ask them, what's your true age? And they say, I'm 35. It's always funny when they say how they are chronologically because I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about your internal organs. How old are you in the inside? So that's when I get a chance to start educating them about what true age is all about and, kind of go into it from there. And before you know it, you're able to help save a life because somebody's on the verge of diabetic coma or stroke or something. So these AGEs, once they latch onto your organs, they just begin to, come through like an Amtrak train with no brakes. And before you know it, you are accelerating really, really fast and deteriorating and anti-aging very, very quickly. And that's not good. The goal is to live younger, longer. So I always like to do two things at the beginning, and that is start off with the definition of food. A lot of times we hear a lot about herbs, and so I come in talking about a food. There is a difference between a food and an herb. They're both to sustain life. They both help you, but they do have different compounds. They work on different ways, and so I'm switching gears here, going into a plant called Tahitian noni. It is in the medical PDR, so anyone has one, they can look it up. Which is a physician's death reference book. It's been used way back over 2,000 years that they can go into it, but even way, way forward if you go do your own research yourself, that the Israelites and then other nations began to use it around Asia, Malaysia, Nigeria, just to name a few places that it grows. But we get ours with the company named Miranda that I market from Tahiti because it grows the purest out of all of these locations that the noni is growing. The soil that has been tested grows the purest off the island of Tahiti. So it's very important to understand that because even the scriptures teach us that you can tell a tree by its fruit. So that's how you know if you have a good fruit or not. Just like going to the grocery store, if it's bad, chances are it came off a bad tree. So nowadays when you buy fruits and vegetables, if you're not eating them fresh and right away within 24 to 40 hours of consumption and buying it, before you know it, it's turning black, icky, stinky, all that because it's lost nutrients, which is what you need to sustain life. So according to the Zondervan Bible Dictionary, the word food, it says it's a nutritive material taken into a living organism to sustain life, to to promote growth and the repair of the tissues and to give energy for the vital process. And so I can never emphasize this enough that it's a lot going on that we're not getting out of the food supply. About 80% of the food, especially here in America, has been contaminated. So if you're eating anything that's coming out of the U.S., chances is it's processed, it's got additives, hormones, preservatives, GMOs, pesticides, you name it, it's in there. So it's just really like striking a match to your money. You're not really getting anything. And now with this exhausting heat temperatures that we have worldwide, this is not the time to be eating a lot of sugar or have your AGEs on the rise, because just the heat alone, not drinking enough water, drinking sodas and Kool-Aid and punch and all these different things that I see people drinking and giving to their kids, Capri Suns. It's just sugar all over the place in the most worstest ways, and they're not really understanding how they are slowing down their aging process and taking themselves to the grave. So being that said, why do you still see people, especially sometimes even people that I know that understand some of these things, and you know, you have to start somewhere to kind of educate yourself. You're not going to learn it all overnight, but I still see people that really know a lot better, and they're still walking around wondering why come they having kick diabetes, why are they still facing cancer, or maybe they beat it and it came back, or why, you know, this or why that. And I said, well, what have you been doing about that? Well, I started doing this and then I stopped. Why would you stop doing something that has put you on the path to overcome the health elements that you're dealing with? And so this is why the Most High gave us dietary laws. That's why it's called a law. It is set in stone. The finger of God gave these laws to Moses, and so we are to abide by them, and we will have good days and long days of life. But when we don't, then we end up with all of these many diseases that we come here every Thursday talking about. So going into that, the second thing I like to do is always share scripture for the foundation of what I'm kind of going to go into. So I'm going to read from Ezekiel chapter 12 and read two verses, verse 18 and 19. And it says, Son of man, eat thy bread with quaking, and drink thy water with trembling and with carefulness. And say unto the people of the land, Thus saith the Most High Ahiah of the inhabitants of Jerusalem and of the land of Israel, they shall eat their bread with carefulness and drink their water with astonishment, that her land may be desolate from all that is therein, because of the violence of all them that dwell therein. Amen. So being that I'm going to kind of talk about bread, the Most High is telling Ezekiel here for them to eat bread and water. Now, people back then didn't have the luxury of eating all this stuff that we see all over the day. Like you couldn't just walk into Walmart or Sprouts or some kind of farmer's market and see all these type of trinkets that we see all on the shelf today. People had a much deeper understanding on what was good, what was not good. People were baking their own bread. There's not too many people that's making their own bread, knowing the grains, knowing what's going into it. They just kind of in a hurry, send someone to the store, go pick me up a loaf of bread, don't really know what's in the bread, and before you know it, AGEs, obesity, people are going blind from glaucoma. Just the sugar is robbing people of what it's doing. So Satan is definitely operating in the sugar. So I want to kind of go into, I got this from different places, Dr. Truman. I'm going to have you go to AGE Foundation, not right now. I'm going to kind of read some things I put together on biblical understanding of what was going on with grain, because we hear a lot about grains and how grains are good for you, but in retrospect, is it the same grains that they were eating during the days of Christ? And so we're being kind of April food, as you can kind of say. So we got to really educate ourselves on these grains and wheats and barleys and things like that, because people see it in the Bible, so they know that it's good. But the question is this the same barley and lentils and things they were eating back then? And chances is it's not, unless you're just really researching up on this, finding out where this stuff is really, really coming from. And is it really whole food like what they're saying? Or is it just something they kind of stuck a label on there to kind of, you know, trick the people into buying it, and these companies are just making profits at your expense? So I'm going to read some articles here, and then we'll kind of go to agefoundation.com. I encourage readers or listeners to kind of ditch the grains for the sake of their health. And so I'm going to kind of explain what I mean by that, because grains are good, but like I said, what type of grains are we talking about? So they are tremendous health improvements to people that when they get the right understanding, their health does improve. So one of the questions that I often get is, if grains are unhealthy, why are they consumed in the Bible? And why did Yeshaya use so many references to bread or grains or the staff of life? And Yeshaya even called himself the bread of life. So eating them, can't be bad. That's a question I get faced with a lot. So it is certainly a valid point to consider. And as a believer and as a Israelite, it was once I researched going into the grain, you got this thing going on with gluten right now. They're sticking gluten, which is not good. So now people are on the rampage looking for everything gluten-free. That's another epidemic going on. So fortunately, for those of us striving to eat as healthy as possible and to, live good, holy lives, the answers, they can kind of still be conflicting. So to fully understand the factors involved, it's important to kind of note several things. So I know the first thing, called the grains of the biblical time, is much different than the grains of today. There are certainly many references to grains in the Bible, and with good reason. The Bible was compiled, during a predominantly agricultural time. Everything now is biotechnology. There was no biotechnology to make stuff at the just snap your fingers and you got a whole loaf of bread made. Like, they didn't even have the type of stoves and the type of equipment and stuff that we have in this time and day. So it was more of a predominant agricultural time where you had possession of your land and you were tilling your own land, not relying on other people to bake your bread for you, and then you don't really know what they're putting in it. And this would have been a reference that was easily understood by the people during that time. Though the Bible references grains consumed a couple thousand years ago bear little to no resemblance to the grains we consume or don't consume today. In Yeshaya's time, there was only 3 major types of wheat in existence, which is incorn, and I'm spelling that E-I-N-K-O-R-N. Amor, spelled E-M-M-E-R, and then later triacum, spelled T-R-I-T-I-C-U-M. So if anyone wants to kind of look those up, along with simple non-hybrid varieties of other grains like barley and millet and rye. These grains had, and they kind of still have, a higher protein content and lower anti-nutrient content than grains of today. So this is a stark contrast to the 25,000 species that exist today, most of which, were created in a lab to be disease resistant or produce high yields. In order to achieve these traits like disease and pest resistant, scientists had to enhance the part of the grains that naturally resist the disease and the predators. So mainly the glutens, the lecithins, and the phytates, the most harmful parts of the grains to the humans. In addition, these hybrid strains are often allergy producing and usually sprayed with pesticides and chemicals. It is interesting to note that some people who are allergic to modern strains of wheat show little to no reaction to properly prepared incorn, corn with a K though instead of C, incorn, E-I-N-K-O-R-N, wheat in small amounts. So the grains of Yeshaya's time were genetically similar to the grains of today and had lower concentrations of the harmful compounds. So in addition, they were prepared much differently. Number 2, the grains of biblical times were prepared differently than the grains of today. Besides the differences in the basic genetic structure of the grains in the biblical times were processed much differently, and consuming them in modern form wouldn't have been an option. So since grains do contain anti-nutrients, like I said, the gluten and the lecithin and the phytate, these components have to be neutralized somehow. So traditional cultures throughout the world have found ways to lower the effect of these harmful properties. So in biblical times, grains were often prepared by soaking, fermenting, or sprouting before being consumed. Often this wasn't intentional, but a result of methods of storage which left the grains exposed to warm, marsh conditions that encouraged sprouting and fermentation. So when a grain sprouts, the chemical structure changes and the anti-nutrient content is greatly reduced. Fermentation, it mitigates this further. The grains are harmful to humans when consumed straight off the plant in an uncooked or unprepared state. In addition, any grains consumed in biblical times could truly have been called whole grains, unlike the processed granola versions of today's modern times. Equipment didn't even exist, like I said, back then to grind the grain to the microfine particles that we call flour today. Grains were often ground by hand using stones or similar objects. Think of the difference, like in particular size, between a hand ground sprouted piece of wheat and the dried, hybridized dust-like flour we use today. The flour we consume today, it's ground to such a small size that the surface area of the grain is literally increased 10,000% more, and the starchy area is expanded. So as a result, the body quickly converts it to sugar, which is why flour and processed foods can have as much of an impact on the blood sugar as pure cane sugar. Another obvious point to realize is that any reference to grain in Yeshaya's time was a reference to an actual grain in whole form or made into bread that also wouldn't resemble the stuff you get at the store today. Certainly grains in Yeshaya's time would not have been made into donuts and pretzels and chips and snack foods and cookies and etc. Grains in biblical times also wouldn't have been mixed with vegetable oils, high fructose corn syrup, or chemical additives, or commercial yeast, artificial flavorings, or ingredients used today that you see in so much stuff. Yeshaya wouldn't have been snacking on some chew mix or chowing down on bagels or soda while he was fishing. If one truly desires to eat grains because they are referenced in the Bible, then these grains should be one of the, 3 varieties that actually existed in the Bible and should be prepared in a similar way and eating in a similar way. Though I'm not sure this is what many people are envisioning when referencing the Bible for their reason for consuming grains. Because like I said, people hear the word grains, they read about bread, they hear about Christ being the bread of life, so they're just hearing the word bread. They're not really searching to understand how these breads were made. We're talking thousands and thousands of years ago versus today's time where everything has flipped the script and went biotechnology, so there are some, but it's very rare. You have to search them out and find them who are actually making the breads and using the ingredients that are from the Bible so we can be in alignment with the actual grains of the Bible. Number 3, grain consumption, it didn't begin until after the fall. If you read the text carefully, Adam and Eve are given the plants and the fruits to eat in the Garden of Eden, and where there is peace and optimal level health, considering death didn't enter the picture until after the fall. So it is only after, the sin they referenced it to tilling the soil and growing grains. And this reference is mingled with a reference to death, when the Most High tells Adam, from the sweat of your brow shall you get bread to eat until you return to the ground from which you were taken. In this sense, one can wonder if grain consumption was part of the Most High's plan in the beginning at all. Of course, the Most High created grains, as we know, and he created everything and saw that it was all good. An important distinction to make is that not everything that is good is necessarily beneficial to the human body. The Most High created poison ivy, I tell people, which it has its place in the ecosystem, but which is not beneficial to the human body. So the Most High created many poisonous species of plants and animals, and they are good, though just not beneficial to the human body. So everything is not good for you, and it tells us that even in the Apocrypha, which is part of the King James Bible. The Most High, he did create the grains, and while they have been consumed at times throughout history, nowhere is it specifically declared that they were beneficial and healthy for the human body, or that their consumption is part of the optimal diet for humans. The context of the Bible was an agricultural time period when grains were sometimes necessary for survival or population growth, especially considering the differences in the grains today. So it must be evaluated if the grains are still a necessary part of the human diet. So back then, like from the scriptures that I read, keep in mind they were in captivity, in ancient Babylon. So they had been stripped of their vintages and everything had been given over to the hands of their enemies, such as is today. So they didn't have all of the goodness of the land that they had at one time. So the Most High in that scripture is telling them how to kind of help them sustain life, and to eat it carefully. Don't do like we do today. You eat you something and you say, "Ooh, that's good. I think I want to have me some seconds." The Most High was telling Ezekiel, y'all better, hold it down. Don't be going back for seconds because y'all going to be here for a while. You're going to have to learn how to make this stretch. So get some beans in that water. Ain't that what Daniel told the king? Say, I'll eat beans and water for 3 days and I'll be all right. So we know that it can be done, and it can be done in moderate consumption. 4, grains were often eaten in the times of hardship. While grains are referred often in the Bible, these references are not always positive. From the animal offering of Abel that was preferred to the grain offering of Cain, to the admonishing to Adam to till the soil unto death, the Bible has its shares of negative grain references as well. Again, the book of Ezekiel is one of the most detailed and well-known references to grain, as the Most High commands Ezekiel to use the wheat and the barley and beans and lentils and millet and spelt to make a bread for the people to eat. This recipe has gained popularity, and a version of bread fashioned after this method can be found in many grocery stores these days, but often this is assumed to be healthy as it was a recipe given in the Bible. But unfortunately, a few important details were left out, such as taken into content, the book of Ezekiel is not a pleasant time. During chapter 4, there is an impending siege, and these grains are all that is available to the Israelites. In fact, these foods are seen as food for animals, and Ezekiel protests having to even eat them. 2, because of the pending siege and famine, Ezekiel is also told to eat carefully, portions amount, to make sure there is enough food. Thirdly, in verse 12, Ezekiel is commanded to cook this bread over human excrement. For your food, you must bake barley loaves over human excrement in their sight, saith the Most High. When Ezekiel protests, the Most High allows him to use cow dung instead of hardly appetizing. Other references link grain consumption with hardship as well, such as when the Most High people must have left Egypt in haste. They ate unleavened bread because it is all they can prepare in that time. In the exile in the desert, the Most High people, they eat manna from heaven, so they eventually cry out for meat and are given quail. During the 7 years of famine in Egypt, the Egyptians must eat grains because it is all that is available. So on a side note, both biblical references and research on mummies from ancient Egypt show that the ancient Egyptians consumed grains in relatively large amounts in the form of breads and beer. The ancient Egyptians ate more whole grains, leaner meat, less saturated fat, and more fruits and veggies than the average American today. So according to the conventional wisdom, they should have really been healthier, but researchers are kind of stumped to find that they had high rates of heart disease and plaque and arterial walls as well. 5, meat is often linked with times of celebration or redemption. Just as grains are often linked with hardship, many references to meat and fat in the Bible seem to promote their use, which is interesting because many diets that encourage a biblical way of eating often minimize meat consumption. While meat was not specifically named as a food for man in the beginning, after the flood, the Most High told Noah that every creature that is alive that is good shall be yours to eat. And I gave them to you as I did the green plants. Again, talking about green plants. When the prodigal son returns, the father kills the fatted calf in celebration instead of making a calf or baking some bread. In the Old Testament, meat sacrifices were often required. In fact, like at the Passover, the blood of the lamb, foreshadowing Christ, was necessary to save the firstborn sons. The passage makes it very clear that unless the Israelites actually consumed the flesh of the lamb, they would not be protected. So in times of fasting or sacrifice, people in biblical times and still today abstain from meat, from a scientific standpoint. There are health benefits to fasting, especially from occasionally removing proteins and fats in a short time. Saying Yeshua as the bread of life. Throughout the New Testament, references to bread take on a parallel to Christ himself. Yeshua is born in Bethlehem, translated house of bread. Yeshua is laid in a manger, of feeding through for animals. Yeshua even referenced to himself as the bread of life in the Gospel of John, and he tells us that unless we eat his flesh and drink his blood, we shall not have life within us. So when Yeshua refers to himself in this way, and when we pray for our daily bread in our Father, are these references and encouragement to consume grains. So I'd say that these references are not meant to be a nutritional directive, but rather to reveal important theological truths. As I mentioned above, there are many references of grain consumption during times of trial and famine. Bread was consumed during fasting and times of trouble or sacrifice. These references are sprinkled throughout the Old Testament and would have been understood by the Israelites during Yeshua's time. Since Yeshua became man to become a sacrifice for our sins, these parallels remind us of the sacrificial role Christ will take on. Yeshua also refers to himself as the Lamb of the Most High in the Gospel of John, and these two titles taken together have a lot of meaning. So as foreshadowed in the Old Testament, Passover, the Lamb was slain so that the angel of death would pass over the Most High's people. Yeshua's sacrifice, the last one needed, offers redemption as he dies for our sins. Yeshua celebrates the Last Supper with his disciples. At the time, Passover would have traditionally been celebrated by the Israelite people. The Last Supper takes place on the Feast of Unleavened Bread. There's the word bread again, when the sacrificial lamb was typically consumed, though the lamb is noticeably absent from the Last Supper. At the Last Supper, Yeshua holds up the bread, saying, "This is my body, which is given up for you." At this central moment, Yeshua links the two titles. He has called himself the bread of life and the Lamb of the Most High. The bread becomes the lamb, which is to become the sacrifice for all mankind. The next day, Yeshua is crucified and dies at the hour that the sacrificial lamb is usually killed during Passover. All these connections would have had deep meaning to the Israelite people, who would have recognized their references in Scripture. Yeshua, as the Most High incarnate, was both the bread of life, sustaining his people in times of trouble and trial, and the Lamb of the Most High that takes away the sins of the world. The references connecting Yeshua with bread are very important to the message of his sacrifice for us. They are not ever presented as a dietary guideline or a mandatory command to consume grains. Just as vegetarians can avoid meat without worrying about not following the references to meat eating in the Bible, a Christian can certainly avoid grains without worrying about not following a biblical directive. Yeshua drank wine, and his first miracle was turning water into wine. Though I've never seen anyone argue that it is wrong to avoid drinking because the water was made into wine. More importantly, as Christians, we believe that our bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit and should be nourished and treated as such. So again, Satan has this bread out here because the people that understand and looking for natural remedies, such as people gathered here today, so we eat a lot of bread in this time and day because we see that word bread affiliated in the scriptures and affiliated to Christ. So the bottom line is, while there was perhaps a time in history when smaller amounts of grain probably prepared could be consumed without damaging the body, this is not the case today. So as mentioned above earlier, grains today are much different than those of biblical times. Many studies are now linking the consumption of modern grains to inflammation, arterial plaque, joint problems, arthritis, infertility, PCOS, and many other conditions. Celiac disease, gluten intolerance, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and cancer are all on the rise due to, possession of bread. Even small children are showing signs of insulin resistance and obesity. As a whole, our society suffers from damaged metabolism and impaired insulin function. The modern diet, especially in the last half a century, has created a society of largely overweight people with health problems. Almost half of all people will die of heart disease and consumption of grains, especially in processed form, which has been linked to, again, heart disease. So for a funny and actual explanation of why, I tell people you can kind of watch the movie Fathead if you aren't already. If those who still want to consume grains in biblical fashion, I suggest finding one of the 3 original strains, taking special care to prepare them by sprouting or fermentation or both, and eating them in moderate amounts as long with a lot of veggies and meat and water. For me, I don't, feel as well with any grain consumption, but even, correctly prepared and the time needed for proper preparation. Because you do eat some bread consumption. So I'm not saying you just have to go on a fast and never eat bread. You just really want to identify the type of bread that you're eating and how is it being prepared if you're really wanting to make sure you're linking it back into the biblical times, so you got to kind of have some vision and think what was going on back then. Like I said, all the gadgets that we have today to just throw some cornbread in the oven and muffins and biscuits and all that stuff, no one was doing that back then, not like they were doing it today. There was no biotechnology and all that kind of stuff going on. So there was a different type of agriculture and preparation. So, again, many people will continue to eat the grains, even in light of the emerging evidence. And this is certainly their right and prerogative. But if a person wants to eat only Cheetos and Pepsis, I tell people for the rest of their life, however, it might be a short one, but that still is their decision. So my prayer and my hope is that just that biblical references to grains won't be used to justify eating processed flours and foods that are nothing like the actual grains of the Bible. Dr. Truman, if you could go now very quickly over to, so the people that are on Google Hangout, if you could go to agefoundation.com.
Okay, I'm going to AGE.com, but I'm going to go over
and
here.
This is a link, everyone, that you can take this link in your own spare time. I would advise you to go there and read up on it because there's many articles that have been published about different type of health disease all the way down to bipolar, autism, how these AGEs are just latching on all over the place. So scientists and doctors and different research from universities are published here, and that way you can also educate yourself further about specifics that you might be interested in AGEs. If you can scroll down to the bottom, Dr. Truman, I'm still kind of scrolling myself. There's a picture. I'm looking for the precise article. This one is called Negatively Effects of Sugar and AGEs Highlighted by the Media. Kind of down, it's dated November the 20th, 2014.
Hold on while I'm having a problem. I'm having a problem getting up on ages.com. AGE.
No, AGE Foundation.
AGE Foundation.com. All right. Now I can do it. Don't get over here. All right. I'm on my way. And I am there. And where do you want me to go now?
Okay, I'm just going to kind of read verbatim the article. So as I'm going along, that way they can see this article too there on the screen.
Excellent. I'm doing it. I'm there.
Okay, well, I'm just going to kind of go into, I'm not going to read all of this, but like I said, somebody can kind of go back in their own spare time and kind of, go more into it, but just to kind of see what's going on here. It says, there is a seemingly never-ending stream of AGE-related articles in the media, with both print and online publications from all over the world educating readers about the harm that advanced glycation products can cause. Many publications are talking about sugar in particular and have stressed the importance of avoiding consuming too much sugar in our diet. The following are just a few examples that have appeared online recently, which talks about high blood sugar increased cancer risk. High blood sugar levels cause sugar to attach to the protein and fat to form the molecules called advanced glycation end products, which are known carcinogens. Again, that's how the AGEs are entering into the body through the foods and the beverages that you're eating. If you're wondering how are you getting these AGE in, they're being consumed through food and beverages. And once the sugar and the protein bind together that's from the food, then that's what's causing the AGEs inside of your body. Anti-aging superfoods and supplements, celebrities swear by. Going back to diet as an example, there is a process called glycation, which is one of the biggest factors causing premature aging and disease. It occurs when sugar reacts with protein in the blood and forms sometimes called advanced. Hold on just a minute, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Um, Going back to that, what was I saying? Going back to the diet as an example, there is a process called glycation, which is one of the biggest factors causing premature aging and disease. It occurs when sugar reacts with protein in the blood and forms something called advanced glycation end product, or AGEs again for short. It is similar to what happens to a piece of meat when it's cooked, the way it hardens and browns on the outside. This is exactly what happens to the body as a result of glycation. Glycation literally hardens the tissues in the body. So if we go back
to what it was.
I'm sorry?
That's what it was.
Okay, I think someone's got an open mic somewhere.
And I closed that mic.
Thank you.
I had to close the mic. Sorry.
Earlier, from the definition of food, remember the word tissues have to do with your food. So again, these AGEs are linked to the foods and beverages that we're eating. So it's very important that we're eating whole foods, and that's exactly what noni is. It's a whole food that has over 150 different nutrients, living nutrients, and it possesses some bioactive compounds barely found in certain plants called iridoids, iridoids. And these iridoids are alive. There's been over 200 and something $million of human public studies that are done. They are available online to anyone to go and Google them. It's very expensive to publish public human clinical studies because you have to publish everything, whether the findings are good or whether they are bad. So a lot of companies try to stay away from doing human clinical studies because just in case it doesn't come out right, they still got to publish that to the public. And so we have those online. We've got a video called From Tree to Bottle that actually shows the consumer how the plant is harvested and grown over in Tahiti and how it is extracted off of the tree and put inside of the bottle. All the way they take you on a tour inside of the manufacturing plant where they can show you that they're not adding anything. They just simply take it from the tree and put it into the bottle and get it to your front door. So they even have to be certified over in the islands over there to pick the fruit off the tree so it does not lose any of its medicinal properties. So you can't just be walking through the village and say, oh, I think I'll pluck a noni off, because it will lose properties, because the whole fruit in its entirety is used, the fruit, the seed, and the leaf. There are medicinal properties inside of all of them. So, like I said, I'm not going to kind of go into all of that because the last one I think there is talked about brief from the world of cosmetic rejuvenation, and then high fructose corn syrup and its effect on health. And I think we all kind of know that's bad. So leading to the product that I'm talking about, Sugar Stop, which is a product that was formed for AGE formation as well as to go up to 40% of extracting sugar from the body. So it doesn't take all of the sugar, but it does take up to 40% of excessive sugar out of the body. So we've had many, many diabetics that have been able to come off of their medications, their insulin, or maybe some are on the pill. Some of the benefits to having the Sugar Stop is that it does also have 3 types of fiber. And those 3 types of fiber are barley trim, it does have the psyllium husk, and it does have the inulin, which is INULIN, which is another form of fiber. It has kidney bean extract. These are ingredients made from the earth. So we are a bioactive company, and everything that we make has some format of the noni inside of it. And so Sugar Stop is a great way to be able to remove excessive sugar that is coming in, even when we all try our hardest to, cut down on bread, starches, pasta, grains, whatever it is we're eating. Trust me, this extra sugar is still finding a way to get into something, because you can't hardly buy anything today, meat, ketchup, mustard. I mean, things that you're wondering, what in the world is sugar doing in this? They're sticking it in everything, and we're giving it to our children, pregnant mothers. And so it has just become an epidemic to where people are going blind at an early age. People are losing their teeth, heart disease, and many other health elements that I just listed. And so this is a product that Miranda has invented in mind to be able to help people remove the excessive sugar from bonding with the protein in the body. So it has a carrot mango flavor taste. So you just take it once a day. with the largest meal of the day. So you just take it one time a day. So one canister would last you for 2 weeks. And so I have a lot of my people that get the True Age body pack, which is with the Max, which is our sister product to our Tahitian Noni original. And the Max is just simply a blend of the noni along with the blueberry, the cranberry, the cannoli and cherry, and the olive. And all of these 5 fruits are the only ones found on the earth today that have active iridoids working inside of them. So compiled together, they make a blend called the True Age Max, and it's 120 milligrams per serving, which is every 2 ounces. That's how many you will be getting in each ounce. And then we have another one called the True Age Max Concentrate that goes up to 360 milligrams on a concentrate version, meaning it has not had any water added into it. So with that being said, Dr. Truman, that's all I have today. If anyone needs to reach me, my phone number is 469-443-2124. My email is Kashakia Johnson. I've had to change it because the other one is just ran out. So again, that is Kashakia, Chashaqyah. Long name. It's Hebrew. It means spirit of zeal. Kashakia Johnson at gmail.com. And so you can reach me there if you're interested in getting yourself scanned for your AGE level so you can begin to live longer. Email me or contact me directly, and we'll get an appointment set up for you. We do have a True Age scanner machine. Dr. Truman, if you have it there, you can put it up on screen. It takes 20 seconds to get your results. And so we are working with churches. The summer is out, so there's a lot of health fairs and things going on. So that's what it's me really, really busy. So I'm working on in a month from now starting my own blog talk, and I'm interviewing people right now, politicians, different doctors, nutritionists, scientists that's going to be coming on, revealing what's going on in the White House. Why is all this stuff being dumped in our food? So all different type of topics. So I'm really, really excited on what the Most High is doing with that. So with that being said, Dr. Truman, if you can now give out the information where they can be able to get True Age Max or Tahitian Noni or Sugar Stop, and that is all I have for today. So until next week, if the Most High's will, I will see everyone then. Shalom.
Shalom, Sister Kashakia. Thank you again for, again, a unique presentation. Didn't expect to find out so much about bread and food and so forth. And again, these are the basics, folks. This is where we need to start with the basics and get back to them.